Hey YouTubers. Okay, so here's where we left off yesterday, and a friend of mine made a comment on my video last night, and he said, you think you could show more detail of how you're filling this gap on these doors when you're welding it up, instead of just showing the before and after. So I can do that, and so that's what we're going to look at here. If you can see, I was showing you yesterday, take those little strips of metal that you cut off when you're using your electric shears, and what I did is I straightened a couple of those out, ground them down a little bit, and I got magnets holding them here. And what I'll kind of do is tack them in one spot just to hold them, and then I usually take a screwdriver and a hammer, kind of work them in there, tack them in a little bit at a time until I get that done. So I'll show you how we do that. And I'm going to set my welder on about a 2. Get the junk out of there. All right. Sure, got the gas on. Oh, yeah, it's on. So I got those two just kind of tacked in there. Pull these off. And I'm going to work that edge in there, just to where it gets nice and flat. And I want it right below the body line, so it's not sticking out. Okay, I think that looks good. Do the same thing. Get right below that body. Stay, so I'm going to hold it there while I do it. Alright, that looks pretty good. And I'm just going to work my way up into here. Doesn't want to stay. I'll put this up here while I do this. That one looks good. I'm not going to fully weld that yet. You know, I don't want to get that too hot and warp that metal there. So I'm going to go down to this piece down here. Do the same thing. It's going to pop out, so I'm going to hold that one in there. kind of springy little things. They got a mind of their own sometimes. Oh yeah, I like that. Once they had a little bit of heat to them, they kind of lay down pretty nice. Okay, so there's those two pieces, and you see that filled that in pretty good. So let's go ahead and make one. I'll show you how we do one from the start. A little piece of that stuff over here. So when you're cutting metal, just kind of keep a box around, clip these dudes off, and throw them in the box. So I just take my little flat body working pliers here, and just kind of flatten this guy out. Not much to it. Bought that sheet of metal. This is part of it. Might as well use it. Okay. It's a nice long one. Kind of work it and straighten it out where you need to. And then just kind of take it here. Wow, that's hot. Save that down for later. Fits in there pretty good. It's a little wide. Yeah, it's a little wide for the gaps, so we're gonna narrow it up a little bit. Grind on the sides a little. gets hot. Whew, got some good calluses on that finger now. All right, let's see what we got now. It's over here. Better, but still just a little bit wide. That was a real smart. Stick it in your mouth before you tell if it's cooled off or not. I can do it on the gas. There goes my compressor. Alright, let's see what we got now. Right there, the dot is poison. Alright, so I'm going to hold that in at the top. Pretty good right there. Tack it, and then just going to work my way down. Good. It's really important that you knock everything off of the fender. Like I got a habit of doing. There. Tap that in there. that's really about all there is to it. So you need to go back and, you know, do some more tacks on here. Don't try to weld it up solid. You don't want to warp anything. And then once you've got it tacked all the way down on both sides, then we just do what we did up here and go and grind that out smooth. And it's going to need a little bit of filler to make that nice, but not a lot. It's going to be okay. So a couple other things we were looking at on here that I was looking at today was what I'm going to do about trim. Because, okay, this was an Impala. I don't know if everybody's familiar with them, but it's actually got a two-piece trim. You got holes here and holes here, and they come along and they meet up there at the front of the fender. The guy I got the car from, he didn't have all the Impala trim. He had a couple of pieces, but it wasn't in very good shape. The parts car is a Bel Air. Now it's got one row of trim, which just goes along these bottom holes. But number one, it's not in that good a shape, and number two, I don't have the two-door piece. So, you know, you got a piece here on the 4-door and a piece here and a piece here. Well, I would have to get the piece for the two-door quarter and then the piece for the two-door door, which probably wouldn't match this anyway because we're not making it to exact specs. So if you bought a Biscayne of this year, you had no trim except a strip down along the bottom here. But this trim wasn't here. The trim that goes around the back edge around the trunk wasn't there. It's just more of a clean look, and I kind of like that, so I think that's what we're going to do. We're going to fill all these holes, and we're going to essentially make this look like a Biscayne. Now, they never made a Biscayne two-door hardtop, but that's okay. We're going to make it for them. And I think I might even get look for some Biscayne quarter panel badges to stick on there, just kind of add to the effect. I think that'll look pretty cool. Okay, so what I want to do some more here. One, I'm going to show you how I fill these holes. Just with a MIG welder, it's always worked pretty well for me. So I'm going to show you how to do that, and then I'm going to go around and just kind of do some more tacks here and there. Like I say, I don't like to do them together because I don't want to put a bunch of heat in the door. In those panels, those thin panels walk real easy. So I'm going to do some of that. Another thing I was looking at today, I wanted to show you all, is this piece that I lost. Nope, here it is. Okay, so looking at my body line here, I laid a straight edge here and here, and I kind of know what's going on is that this body line is slanted at an angle. So it makes sense that when you say this edge of the door is up here, well, when you cut this, well, now it doesn't line up because it's slanting as it goes down, and you're in a different place on the door, so it moved this up. Because this edge would really be up here where the edge is higher. Same thing back here. You know, this piece was on the front of the door here. You had an 8-inch section here that was gone. So if this edge was where it was before, which would be about right there, this edge is higher than this. So what I'm going to have to do is just build a lower edge along here. And the way I was looking at it, I cut this piece, which is a piece of this edge, off of one of the scrap doors. So I think if I take this and I feather this bottom edge pretty thin, and I put it up here like this, and line this up with that, and weld this, and then cut this off flush, and then tack weld across there. Looking at it here, that puts me awful darn close. Close enough to where I could take some all metal body filler and dress that line up and make it look pretty good. And so I believe that's what I'm going to try. I got enough scrap doors that I could do this. I thought about cutting here and just try to move that whole section down, but boy, that would be tough, considering the inner structure of the door follows this little lip and this bend. So I would essentially have to do that to the inside of the door, inner structure of the door too, and I'm not going to try to do that. So anyway, that's what we're going to try, and I think that is going to do the trick. Oops, I won't lose that. Okay, so I'm going to show you how I fill one of these holes. It's a lot of holes to fill, and some of these, when you get up there, they're quite a bit bigger. So I may have to end up cutting a little steel plug and putting it in those. But these smaller ones, they're not too bad to tackle. There was a bunch along the back of this thing where there was a piece of trim that went under the back window. That when my buddy Bill had this car, he didn't want that trim, so I'd welded all those holes up for him, and they came out pretty good. So anyway, I put my welder down on 1. I want the lowest setting. I don't want to burn through this, and I'm right on the edge of this, and this is not real thick metal. So I don't know if you can see this or not. I'm going to kind of start on the edge of the hole here, and just kind of work my way around like in a little half moon, and build it this way. And it doesn't take a whole lot of zaps with the welder to do it, so it usually doesn't cause a warping problem. Okay, that one's full, and I'm drying that off, and that'll look good. All right, so I'm going to put this. I'm going to leave this on a 1 or go back on a 2. That's all right. I'm going to leave this on a 1, and we're going to go around here, and I'll show you the kind of pattern I like to work in to do this. All right, we'll start here. I don't know about on your welder, but on mine, 1 is a great setting for when you're doing butt welding like this, and you don't have a perfect mating panel, which I seem to never do. So when you get a little bit of a gap, that 1 will fill across it without blowing a hole in it. Now I'm not going to weld here because I'm going to be working on that other piece, but I'm going to do it here. Also right there was a dent in this where this filler was. It's not real bad, but I might try and hammer and dolly that a little bit before I weld that section. got your own MIG welder, you probably learned to know it pretty well. I know with mine, everyone's a little bit different, and they all work a little bit different, and you work with them for a while and you kind of learn the best way to use them. This one is an old, it's a Clark. I got it Clark MIG 130 EN. I got this thing at a farm and home supply store 15 years ago, thinking that, well, I just need a cheap welder to get me by until I can afford a more expensive one. And this crazy thing is still working. I think I paid $300 for it with that cart. And I've changed the ground thing a couple of times, and I think I put the little fan in the back one out, but this thing just will not quit. It has been a good welder. So Clark, if you're out there listening, it's a good product. Yeah, these holes up here are pretty good size. I'm not going to try to fill those. I'm going to cut me a little steel plug, put it on the magnet, stick it on there, tack it, and then go around it. I like the way that's looking. A lot of you know that tar will catch on fire. We'll do that hole. There's another one. That one looks better than that. Okay, so take a quick break here. Back in just a second. Okay, so did some more welding on here, and it's looking pretty good. Maybe one or two more rounds. I'll have all this hooked in, and we can grind some of this down. And I do want to. I think I am going to work on this body line while I'm on this side and try to get that right. And like I said last night, I'm going to try to get this gap closed up a little bit, and then start working on the windows and see if I can get them going before we look at the other side. So this is going to be the last video for this week. I've got some other stuff going on the rest of the week. Going to be out of town a little bit, so make sure you check in next week. Hit like, hit subscribe, share this with somebody. Leave a comment on the bottom. I really like to hear what you guys have to say about the project. And this is Saving Junk, signing off for now.